So this video was posted last week, and I didn't see it until Saturday morning when it was too late to make a video about it before the No Kings protests that happened on Saturday. But since we have more protests coming up in the future, I did want to have a conversation about this. So the post, as she writes it, is, well, please don't blast me, I'm very new. Her question is, my friend is wanting to bring her 12-year-old daughter to one of the rallies, protests, or marches. The daughter was really excited. I got caught up in being excited, and then I remembered how I've never believed in including children in politics. But this little girl is very smart and very aware of everything going on. I used to know what I thought in a situation like this. Now I don't know. And this one really bothers me because I think this is how we got here. The not including kids in politics situation. And kids are the one demographic that has absolutely zero representation anywhere in politics. Other demographics may not have representation in our federal politics, but they do have representation in their state and local governments. Kids have absolutely zero, and yet it's their future that we are fighting for. Whether you are on this side or that side, we're both fighting for a future for these children. It's just a very different vision of what we want that to look like. So I think it's very important for us to ask these kids what their vision is for a future and what they want and let them participate. I grew up in a house that we never talked about politics. I remember once when I was young, after one of the elections, asking my mother who she voted for. And by her reaction, you would think I had, I don't know what, told her I had just, I can't even come up with anything. But her response to me was essentially, that's illegal. We can't tell people who we voted for. It's against the law. But by not having those conversations, I ended up being very not educated about politics for most of my adult life. I voted for sure because that was my civic duty, and I enjoy voting. But I never really felt like I knew or understood all of it. I didn't always know which candidate to vote for and why. And learning from television and what the news showed or what commercials showed wasn't enough for me. I always felt like I needed to ask people that I trusted about politics because no one ever taught me as a child. And I was lucky enough to have an American civics class in the 10th grade. Not that I went to it because I was in my rebellion years and I ditched that class a lot. But I did go to some degree and learn something. However, when I moved, there was no government. There was no civics classes whatsoever. So if I'm not learning at home and I'm not learning it in school, and they don't offer American civics anymore, from what I understand, they got rid of that back in the 80s. So if none of these children are getting any sort of political education, then that is exactly how we got here. This uneducated nightmare that is the MAGA movement. Yes, they are uneducated on a lot of things, but one of the main things they're uneducated about is politics. I've talked about this countless times, that politics is like a football game to them. It's just, did our side win or did your side win? And they think that because they elected their little person with their R next to their name, that they're winning, even though they're losing in every policy that gets enacted. So the fact that we're not wanting to take children to the protests, I think, is part of the problem. Especially if those kids want to go. It's their future. Let them have a voice in it. And yes, I understand there is danger. And there has always been danger. But I would say that they are probably in more danger going to church than they are in going out to protest for their rights and their future. I actually did comment on this post and basically said all of this in a much more shorter and concise version. And I'm happy to see that most of the comments agreed with me. This first one, we've brought our kids to protest since they were young. Why would we leave kids out of politics? All of this affects them. The next one, I'm bringing my 11-year-old son. This will be his third. My daughter was 11 when she participated in Hands Across America. This one, I took my 4-year-old granddaughter to her first rally. Her sign, Save Democracy for My Generation. That's what it's about. It's about their future. So I thoroughly believe they should have a voice. The next commenter says the same thing. There were lots of children everywhere on April 5th. Teach children to use their voices. As important as it is to teach them to use their voices, it is also important to teach adults to listen to those voices. And I love this comment because she makes a very good point here. My child has been attending rallies and protests since he was 10. Science March, equality marches. Politics impacts everyday life when they are coming for your school funding and the immigrant kids that attend there. Politics just affects everyday life, period. Everything is politics. This last comment here says, I brought my kids to marches and rallies since they were old enough to discuss and understand politics, right around the age of your friend's daughter. Yes, 12 was probably about the age that I started asking my mother who she voted for when she came home with her little I voted sticker. And this, you can't grow good citizens in a vacuum. And that's it. You can't. This comment here points out, I think children have a right to speak if they want to. I think so too. If this 12-year-old did not want to go and her parents were forcing her to go, that might be a whole different conversation. But this girl is very interested in going, and so I think she should have a right to speak if she wants to. And I want to end it with this one because I think this one is important. If you read the testimonials of leaving MAGA, many of them came from parents who didn't expose them to their own politics. I truly feel like while little shouldn't have to bear the brunt of what's happening, that they should be exposed to pieces that will help them as they grow, standing up for empathy, for example. I don't know that I'd bring my child to one of the big city protests, but a smaller one I would be open to. Although I feel like if the kid is already living in the big city, probably the big city protests are not going to be a big deal. This woman is likely from a small town, and so obviously she would want to protest in her small town where she still feels safe and where her children are safe. I think it is important to keep them safe, and there is absolutely nothing that can keep them safe from what is coming. It's just my opinion, but I don't think you're ever too young to start protesting injustice. Let me know in the comments. Were you exposed to politics as a child? Did it shape your politics as an adult? Let's talk about it.